my lungs. I could distinctly see two wide-open eyes peering through the vents at me. My parents barged into my room asking if I had gone insane. I explained everything, and they looked at each other like I had completely lost it. Not surprisingly, they dismissed it as a dream or the fact that I was too tired and was seeing things. They even began to lecture me about staying up too late. But to this day, I know I hadn't imagined it. It was too real. And the closet opening routinely, I know for a fact that wasn't in my imagination.
And one top train.
I've never been a believer in the paranormal, but I still have absolutely no other explanation for those 3 nights.
That wasn't very cash money.
I live in the Poconos with my wife and kids.
I had no idea what was going on.
There's a small lake about a quarter mile away from our backyard. I commonly take my kids down there to go swimming.
Two of you guys were dead and I was
Up until
getting
last
surrounded.
week, that is. Now, I'm never letting them go down there again.
For sure.
I haven't told anyone about this in fear of sounding crazy. It was last Saturday. We went over to the lake and set up our chairs on the sand. It's like a little private beach in our own backyard. It's been amazing. Me and my wife sat in our beach chairs enjoying the sun while our kids were splashing around in the water. I always tell them not to go too deep. They're still young, 6 and 8.
There's one stairs.
We sat there for a good 2 hours that day. Neither of us were in the mood to get wet. Eventually, my wife got tired and decided to walk back home. I agreed to stay with the kids a little while longer, as they were somehow still having so much fun playing in the sand and water. The sun was setting at this point, and I was getting tired. They were going a little too deep, so I called at them to come back closer to the shore. They couldn't hear me apparently, so I stood up and got closer. Before I could call them again, I noticed something in the water. It looked like a black, roundish object, and it was moving closer to my kids. I ran into the water closer to my kids, calling them to come out. When they got close enough, I dragged them out myself. When I turned back to the water, the object was gone. My kids were confused as hell. I didn't know what to tell them, so I just told them it was time to go home. We packed up and walked back to the house, but I wasn't happy when I got home. I was uncomfortable with what I just saw. That thing looked like no sea creature known to man. Dinner was waiting for us when we got home. I ate really slow, thinking about the object in the water, and whether or not to tell my wife. My wife asked me what's wrong. She noticed that I was eating slow. I decided not to tell her right then. After dinner, I took a flashlight with me and walked back down to the lake. By then, it was already dark out. I got to the lake, but to be honest, I didn't even know what I was expecting to find. I shined the flashlight all around the surface of the water, searching for the black object. And just then, I heard a large splash come from somewhere in the lake. The kind of splash of something emerging out of the water. I thought it might be some kind of animal in the lake. I shined the light all over the place, searching for the source of the sound.
I threw a nade and it threw like 3 nades.
And I realized
he pushed up.
I was dead
as well.
Damn it!
There was a silhouette of a humanoid figure with long black hair covering its whole face. It just stood there, facing me, but not staring at me. Not that I could tell. I dropped the flashlight in horror and sprinted all the way back up to my house, slamming the door shut behind me. I haven't told anybody about this. What kills me is that lake is only a quarter mile away from my house. And for all I know, that thing could be watching me through my window right now as I write this.
More deep trenches.
Once there's far trains. He has a sniper though, so. Nice.
Oh fuck, yep.
Sniper trains.
On top or bottom?
I don't know, I can't see him, I'm dead.
I'm planting.
The bomb is good to go.
Alright, he's mid. Alright, nobody has my mom. Not good.
This town's out, but the war still rages.
This man literally running right behind him.
Search and destroy.
Right, yeah, we always need to have eyes
This
on
happened
mom.
about 7 years ago, ironically on Halloween night. It was pretty late, close to midnight, so all the kids in the neighborhood had already gone home. Even our neighbors across the way had stopped playing their corny Halloween tape. You know, the ones with the creaking door sounds and witch cackling.
One's
It was just
trains.
me and my cousin Q, sitting in the living room. Now, my other cousin, who was about 4 years old, had left her doll laying on the floor, face down.
Oh my
It
god,
was
one's
one of
on
those
trains.
baby alive dolls or something like that. The ones with the moving eyelids. Q had issues with that doll the moment it was bought. She hated it and said it was creepy. In fact, she
How the
often
frick
threw
are
it
you
down the
not
basement
dead?
stairs.
Top mid.
I had no problems with it, and so it stayed on the floor
There's
so
one
my
right next to
little
you.
cousin could pick it up in the morning.
Train.
It was
Nice.
very quiet for about half an hour, until I heard a loud,
mid.
rasping, shuffling noise that seemed to be coming from outside.
I have 10
It
bullets.
sounded like an older man right outside our window. I turned to Q, who...
You're not so thank you.
It's dead.
It's probably the neighbor's tape again, she said.
So
She
she
went
just
back
be
to
the one that has
typing on
back
her
trains.
computer.
I don't know where
It
he's
was
at now.
silent for another minute before we heard the rasping noise again.
I'm back trying.
Louder this time. It sounded like he was trying to say something.
Good work. Don't get comfy. There's more to do.
I got up from the couch and peeked out the window. Absolutely no one out there. Not even in the street. Our neighbor's house was dark.
I didn't
It
know
was
people
as
still
still
use
as
the
any
Tommy
night in our
gun.
quiet neighborhood. There's no one out there,
Search and
I said,
destroy.
looking back to Q. She didn't say anything. I was kind of getting
It's
freaked
really
out.
good.
Another minute passed, and this time
Surround the
there was
objective
whispering,
and destroy
but
it.
loud whispering. I remember it
It's like
sounded
if you mix the
a
auto
kid
and
and
the
a woman.
MP40 together.
Q finally looked up from her
The
computer.
bomb is
Oh
out.
fuck, not at my
It's
gun
that doll,
out.
she
Oh,
said.
there's two bottom mid.
Of course she thought it
Bottom
was.
mid, yeah.
She was very superstitious. I gave her a skeptic look. Let me say this. I don't believe in the paranormal. I leant down and picked up the doll. It was
We lost
fine.
the
And I
bomb.
spawned.
Her eyes
Spawn.
were closed. I forgot
We
to
gotta
say
have
that
people
it had
watching
a
these
voice
flanks.
box thing in it, but it didn't have any
If that was an
batteries.
AR, I shouldn't be forced
I
to
put
go
it
get the
back
bomb.
down. No, it's not. Just leave it alone. It was silent again. I went back to my
I know
seat
which
on
one.
the
I know which
couch.
one.
The whisper started,
Nice.
and I heard the man say something garbled, followed by wheezing.
This is
I
insane
jumped up
with a
from the
sniper.
couch. I was going to see if it was coming from the backyard. Just as I started walking, I noticed that the doll had moved a little. I picked it up again and
Search and
turned it
destroy.
over. Its eyes were open, and it was heavier than before. I dropped it, and Q threw it down the basement again. I still have
Protect
no
the
idea what to
objective.
think. Q denies it ever happened, and my little
The enemy
cousin
has
never
the
asked
bomb.
about her doll after that.
Live bomb armed
I
and
saw
ready.
the doll only one time after that, on the top basement step, laying on its side. This time, I pushed it down the steps.
We're playing B.
I was up late
Gotcha.
reading on a cold night. My bedroom is on the first floor.
Well, let's
I
not
live
mid.
alone in a relatively quiet and wooded area. For that reason, a lot of my windows didn't have any
Hey, still
blinds,
top mid
since
somewhere.
it wasn't as if people driving by were able to look into my house. Plus, I like waking up to the sunlight shining in my bedroom. But this one night made me regret never getting blinds in the bedroom. After finally shutting my reading lamp to get some
Not mid.
shut-eye, I had a good 2 minutes of silence before I heard the sound of something hitting the window. It sounded
one
like a
trains.
single tap from a person's fist. I was facing away from the window and didn't want to turn around. I was used to hearing things like tree branches brush up
Hey, he's
against
got
the
an enemy
walls and
bomb on
windows, but I distinctly recognized this sound to be a
Ah, there's
fist
three.
hitting
One
glass.
in the bottom mid.
The thought that somebody might be outside my window watching me frightened me. The fact that somebody came all the way onto my property to my bedroom window. I tried to accept that maybe it was just a tree branch, but a second and single knock at the window confirmed my fear. It was a fist hitting the glass, and somebody was outside my window. I figured that if I just ignored it, they would go away. Maybe it was just some punk trying to mess with me. If they thought I was sleeping, they would get bored. Another knock at the window came, and I desperately tried to just stay still and show no reactions. But when the fourth knock came routinely, I decided enough was enough. I should confront this jerk like a real man. I turned to the window, and just barely caught a glimpse of a black shadow quickly moving under the window. For some reason, actually seeing something at the window killed any courage I had, and I ran to the kitchen phone and called the police. They said they would have an officer over in 10 minutes. When I hung up, I saw something in the corner of my eye.
Pushed you.
I turned my head and saw somebody standing outside the kitchen window, surely looking at me. Only for a second though, he took off. Somebody was watching me through all the windows. Then I received a disturbing phone call. It was my neighbor, who also happens to be my best friend. He happened to notice through his window that 3 people dressed in black walked onto my property earlier. One of them with a sharp, shiny object in his hand. This only made me panic even more. I ran upstairs where I knew I couldn't be watched and hid in the bathroom. I heard constant single knocks at the front door downstairs. No way it was the police. I just prayed they would get there in time, and thankfully, moments after the knocking stopped, I heard heavy banging at the front door, followed by someone screaming police. It turned out to be the cops, but whoever the 3 men were already gone into the woods. It might have been more than 3, I don't even know. All I know is they were never caught, and that I went out to get blinds the same week. My parents are divorced, and I was living with my dad. I'm an only child, so the only time I was around kids my own age was when I was out making friends with kids on the block.
You stop mid.
There was this one kid that lived on the corner of my block. His name was Tom. I met him while riding my bike. He strangely invited me over to shoot some hoops with him.
What?
So I did.
Oh, he's behind me. He's going up to you.
He was a lot older than me. I was 12 and he was 16. I found out after hanging out with him a lot that he was an only child as well, and that he also lived with his dad. At first, I found him very relatable. I gave him my phone number and he would call to hang out. Sometimes he would come over and play video games. But then he started getting weird. He would call non-stop. If I didn't answer, he would begin to leave annoyed messages. He would call 5 or 6 times before coming over and ringing the bell. If my dad wasn't home, I usually didn't answer it. But when he was home, he would force me to hang out with Tom, even though I told him he was creepy. I biked with Tom back down to his house while pretending to listen to him babble on about stupid shit. This kid would never shut up. I needed to find a way to get him to stop looking for me. Then, for the first time, he invited me into his house. I really didn't want to go in, but it didn't seem I had a choice. The second I walked into the door, the foul, disgusting odor of his house filled my lungs. Clothes were tossed all over the floor, broken glass in one corner of the room, and what looked like coffee stains on the wall. It was the most disgusting place I'd ever seen. And then, a huge, shady-looking man walked out from another room. He looked at me with a very intimidating look. I felt myself backing away from him, until Tom introduced him as his father.
SMGs. Like, what?
The man just gave me a big grunt and stomped off into another room. It was official.
Oh my gosh, just better. Just much better.
Wow, that shit crazy.
I decided I didn't even want to be in that house anymore and just made up some excuse to go. I think that I said that I forgot I had a doctor's appointment, and at that moment, his smile slowly faded as an unhappy, if not extremely angry expression crossed his face. He didn't even give me any response. He just looked at me with this unknowing stare. I left in a hurry and ran back down the block to my house. The door was locked, surprisingly. I unlocked it with the key my dad made me carry and found that he wasn't home. I really wanted him to be home. And then I found a little sticky note on the fridge, saying he was called into work for a possible storm emergency. So that night before going to sleep, I checked my email for a response from somebody on eBay. But instead, I had about 5 new emails all titled